Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Iqbal's Inspirations and Insights with Fahad Khan. There's a beautiful poem in Hijaz in which Allama Iqbal is speaking from the perspective of an individual. And I won't talk about who this is or where this person is until the end. But this person is talking about what's happening in Europe. And we know that Allama Iqbal had the opportunity to spend time in Europe and observe the Western lifestyle. So he is able to provide a critical analysis of it. He starts out by saying, "इस तेरे कोहन में हैं गरजमंद पुजारी, रंजीदा बुतों से हो तो करते हैं खुदा याद." That in this ancient house of idols live self-conceited worshippers, and they only remember God once they have been upset by their own idols. Meaning these individuals have created idols that they worship, their status, their money, and once they become upset by them, when something happens to their status, when something happens to their money, then they remember the real God. पूजा भी है बेसुद, नमाजें भी हैं बेसुद, किस्मत है गरीबों की वही नाला व फरियाद. And because of what they do, their idol worshipping is in vain and their prayer is also useless. And these poor dwellers have nothing to do except to beg and cry. हैं गर्च बुलंदी में अमारात फलक बोस, हर शहर हकीकत में है वीराना आबाद. That although their buildings in the cities are so high that they touch the sky, but every city in reality is empty, is desolate town. Meaning their hearts are so empty. If you go into Western cities, you recognize that there's so many people here. They live here, they work here. So when you see in the city, you see all these people walking around and working and all these buildings. It looks like there's so many people here and there's so much going on. But because of the society, because of the individualistic society and the values and the diminished values, it's almost like it's a desolate town because everyone is empty inside. तैशे की कोई गर्दिश तकदीर तो देखे, सिराब है परवेज जिगर तश्ना है फरहाद. Now he's using the example of Farhad and Parvez, and Farhad was in love with Shirin, and Parvez used the passion of Farhad and asked him to dig through the mountain and get a stream of water out. And Farhad did that. So he's saying that look at the irony in fate of what has happened to the axe of Farhad, that all the work that Farhad did, it made Parvez quenched and satisfied, but Farhad is still yearning. Meaning all the work seems to be done, but people are still having these existential anxieties. And then he talks specifically. He says, "ये इल्म, ये हिकमत, ये सियासत, ये तजारत, जो कुछ है वो है फ़िक्र मुलूकाना की ऐजाद." That this knowledge, this wisdom, the politics, the trade, whatever exists in the West, in Europe, is nothing but an invention of imperial thought. All of this stems, its foundations are in the imperialism, in postmodernism. And then the individual in this poem ends by saying to Allah that Allah tera shukr ke ye khitta e pursoz, saudagare Europe ki ghulami se hai azad. That, oh Allah, I'm thankful to you that the place where I'm dwelling, even though it's filled with fire, it is still free from the enslavement of the West and the dealer and the cunning salesman of the West. That even though the place where I am is filled with fire, I'm still thankful to you that I'm free from that enslavement. And what's interesting is that this poem is titled Dozakhi ki Munajat, that this is cries of the dweller of hellfire. So Allama, after observing the West, came to the conclusion that an individual will feel more free in hellfire, even though he's in hellfire and he's burning, but feels that freedom in hellfire and prefers to be in hellfire rather than being enslaved in European thought and European world. And unfortunately nowadays, most of us, instead of being free in our own mind and in thoughts, we prefer to be enslaved through Western thoughts and ideologies. May Allah protect us from being enslaved in this world and from the fire of hell. Ameen.